Boyfriend ponders leaving post-trauma. Girlfriend after a year apart. I realize right up front that I am going to come across as an asshole, and I will probably get lots of hate for this, but I'm looking for all points of view. Also, this is going to be very long because I just don't know what to leave out, and honestly, I need to vent some. Here is the story. A year ago, actually a year and a month ago, my GF was raped as she was leaving work. Thankfully, she was not killed, however her attacker did threaten her with a knife. Fortunately, the store she works at had cameras in the parking lot, and between them getting video of the attack and the bank across the street, getting the attacker's car on camera, the police were able to catch him within a day. Between the video and DNA testing, he did not even contest, he just pleaded guilty in exchange for not receiving the max. Since there were aggravating circumstances, the knife, the judge gave him a 20-year sentence, and with time for good behavior, he can be out in about 10 years, give or take. I tell you all of that to make it clear that her attacker is no longer a threat. She doesn't have to fear him coming back for her, at least for 10 years or so. Obviously, this was a very traumatic event in her life, and while I was not a victim per se, it was also very traumatic for me as well. I can't imagine what she has gone through, and I don't compare my situation to her at all. But I have had severe bouts of depression because I couldn't protect her, and knowing someone else was harming her sometimes was almost more than I could handle. Right after the incident, she did not want to see me. I get that. It hurt, but I understood. Her parents picked her up from the hospital, and I did not see or hear from her for a week, which I sort of get, but I think I could have gotten a text or something, just saying she was okay. Finally, a week and her sister calls me and lets me know that she is staying with her parents and she will be calling me in a couple of days. She never called me. Instead, I once again get a text from her sister saying she would like me to come over for a few minutes so we can talk. I get up and go over and am greeted at the door by her mother, who very calmly and very coldly starts laying out to me how I am to act and what I am to say. I am further instructed to not attempt to make any physical contact with her, as in hug or anything. Okay, again, I get it. Major trauma. I'm sure they have been coached by therapist counselors or something in what to say and do around her, so I play along. I walk in, and she is sitting on a chair with her dad standing next to her, and her sister sitting on the couch. As I walk in the room, the sister starts talking and telling me that my girlfriend wants me to know that she is okay. But obviously she has been traumatized and appreciates my understanding in her recovery. She never said one single word to me and barely looked at me. Again, this was right after the event, and I'm understanding that this is how it has to be. But honest to God, that entire conversation was just awkward as hell. I leave, go home, and attempt to focus on how I can help her. I start Googling how to deal with a rape survivor and what I can expect. She starts going to therapy initially 2 times a week, then after 2 months it goes down to 1 day a week. In the meantime, she finally makes contact with me and asks to meet at a coffee shop. I get there and she is already there and waiting. At this point in time, they had her so medicated that I was dealing with a zombie for the most part. There was no emotion, and she was very methodical in her speech. Basically, she wanted to get together that day to tell me that she couldn't go out with me for a while until she got past some issues she was dealing with. Of course, I told her I understood. This was almost a month after the attack, and this was our first conversation by ourselves, so I was already living under this assumption. I told her I would be there for her, and that whatever she needed, whether that be space or a shoulder to cry on or anything, I was there for her. I started to tell her that I loved her, and she stopped me. She told me that right now, she didn't want to hear that, and that I had to respect her wishes. I was once again a little hurt and frankly surprised, but I said whatever she wanted. She started texting me the next day. Little things, nothing important, but I think it was a big step in getting back to where we were. This went on for another month and a half. I finally asked her if we could meet for dinner after a month and a half. She didn't reply for 2 days, then said she had to wait to talk to her therapist. Finally, she agreed to this, but set the date for another month away. Now, mind you, this was almost 4 months after the attack, and so far, I had had 1 physical conversation with her in person, and 1 bizarre conversation with her and her family. Oh yeah, I need to mention this. I wasn't being updated on her progress by anyone. Granted, I realized that I am not officially family, nor am I entitled to anything, but it would have been nice to just get a text or call or something from someone telling me that she was doing well in therapy or not, or anything. We went out to eat at a small bistro that we ate at all the time. I met her there and was waiting for her to show up. After sitting for a half hour waiting, I texted to see what was up. I just got a text of, "On my way." She finally arrived and sat down. I asked her how she had been, and she snapped at me, telling me not to ask her personal questions. We ate, and after dinner, I wanted to just sit and talk because I missed the person I had talked to almost every day for the previous 3 years. But when she was done eating, she said she was ready to go home. I asked her if she could stay for just a few minutes to talk, but I could see that she was becoming physically anxious, and I did not want to upset her. So I said that I loved her and missed her. She just walked away. She went back to texting me the next day, as if nothing had been wrong. We actually started to see each other once a week for lunch, and she was getting more and more comfortable with being out, so she sat and talked for a while. She had also started a new job, which she told me about. This went on for another 4 months. I was happy to see her and all, but honestly, I was very lonely, and we had not even so much as held hands. Then one day, she didn't show up for lunch. I texted to see if she was okay. No reply. I called her parents to see if they knew where she was and to make sure she was okay. I got the runaround from them, and by this time, I was starting to get upset because I didn't want to know where she was at or anything. I just wanted to know if she was okay. After actually saying that, her mom said, "Yes, she is okay, but don't expect to hear from her for a while." Well, that made me start to think she had had a relapse and was in the hospital, but what could I do? All I did was go home and try to take my mind off of it. 2 weeks passed with nothing from anybody. I was trying my best to be reasonable, but basically, I called her sister and asked if she was still alive or what. She knew I was getting frustrated, so she apologized, but said that her sister told them to specifically not let me talk to her. At this point, I broke down. I didn't know what I had done wrong here. I had not pushed her. I had not tried to get her to be with me in any way other than to just talk to me. And even then I had had very generic conversations, so as not to upset her. I then got a text from her asking if I would meet with her at an address I wasn't familiar with. But once I looked it up, I determined this was a therapist's office. I was told to be there at 4, which meant I had to leave work early to get there. I checked in at the front desk and was told that the therapist wanted to speak to me alone for a few minutes. She came in, and I now knew where the parents were getting this from, because after formally greeting me, she then started to provide me with a list of do's and don'ts. She then told me that my girlfriend wanted to speak to me and had something to tell me. I went in, and she was sitting on one chair, and I was instructed to sit in the other. She had a box of tissues and had been crying. The therapist told me that I was here because my girlfriend had something to tell me, and that she wanted the safety of the therapist's office to feel safe. She then proceeded to tell me that the reason she did not meet me for lunch that day was that she was with another guy, somebody from her new job, and that they had been intimate with each other. She might as well have taken a gun out and shot me. It couldn't have hurt anymore. I just dropped my head and began to cry. The therapist then pipes in with some logic about her taking back her sexuality since she was attacked, and how this wasn't cheating in the same sense of cheating. My girlfriend then proceeded to tell me that she does not want to lose me, and that she is just very messed up in the head and that it was a one-time thing and so on. I felt very trapped at that moment. I felt like I was ganged up on, and the more I sat, the madder I got. I finally just said to her, "You haven't so much as held my hand in the past half year, yet you can go be intimate with some guy you met at work while I sit like a jackass waiting for my junior high-like date." This, of course, caused her to go into hysterics, and the therapist asked me to leave. I apologized and told her to text me if she wants to keep working this out. I got that text later that day. Now she is all chatty and so on, telling me that this was the worst mistake of her life and please talk to her. I tell her that I don't know if I can go on with this, but agree to meet her. I flat out tell her right up front, when I see her, that for me to even consider going forward with this, that she has to cut this other guy off completely. She tells me that is impossible, because they work together, and I tell her that I'm sorry, but I won't even consider it if she is going to see this guy every day. She decides to find another job, and after talking with my sister, who I have told everything to, she said that while it is not common, some women do attempt to have sex after being attacked so that they feel like they have power again. Now, why I am not the one who she did this with, I have no idea, but I know I feel like I am being punished for something I did not even do. She changes jobs and we go back to our lunches, and I do this twice when I tell her that I am getting a little tired of just meeting for lunch and doing nothing else, so she agrees to come over to watch TV with me. That has been it up until tonight. Tonight she came over and we watched 2 movies and ate pizza. During the second movie, I tried to give her a kiss. Nothing more, just a kiss. She backs away as though I was a cross and she was a vampire, and tells me she is not ready for that yet. Okay, not my finest moment here, I admit, but I tell her that it's been a year and a month, and I have not tried one thing with her or forced her into anything, and yet she willingly was intimate with some other guy months ago, but here I am, still waiting to hold hands. She, of course, starts crying, but this time, I'm not as fast to apologize. I do apologize for the tone of my voice, and tell her that I would never try and force her to do anything against her will. But honestly, I feel like I've been kept on the outside. I've been cheated on. I don't care what they call it. She willingly had unprotected sex with someone else, and I feel like I have done everything to try and be a supportive boyfriend. I tell her that honestly I don't want her to text me until I decide what I am going to do. I don't want to be unfair to her, but by the same token, a year is a long time, and we are really no closer to being back to normal than we were 6 months ago, and I have no idea how long this will go on. Now here is the part where, if you didn't think I was a jerk before, you will now. I am just tired of not having sex. Look, I certainly understood not trying anything right afterwards, and even months afterward, but it's been over a year, and we are not even holding hands, and frankly the fact that she has been with someone else since this incident is killing me inside. So I told her that I am going to think things through and promise to talk with her next week sometime. But as it stands tonight, I think I'm done. I love her. I hate the person who ruined both of our lives. I know this isn't her fault, and I hate that I feel terrible no matter what I do. If I stay, I am going to be resentful, and even if she comes over tomorrow and has sex with me, it will feel like either pity sex or desperation sex. But I know ending this will be punishing her for something that isn't her fault either. First update. That night's incident was very fresh on my mind, and the pain I was feeling at that moment was more than I could handle. I typed that out, which was cathartic to me, then decided to crawl into a bottle of Jim Beam. I called in sick yesterday from work, which was not a lie as I had the hangover from hell, and spent time alternating vomiting and laying with an ice bag on my head. That all being said, here I am today. Although universally I was told I was not an asshole and not in the wrong, it still doesn't feel right. I feel like an absolute failure, and that if I would have just been more assertive early on in the process, that we could have changed things. I don't think I made it clear enough how much I loved and still love her. Letting this relationship go is like saying I have to lose an arm. I haven't eaten any solid food since Sunday night. I know I have to quit drinking. Yes, I called into work again today. But right now, feeling numb is better than what I feel like I have to do. Before I go over my intentions, I do want to clear up a couple of things. As I said, I wrote that while I was still very upset and hurt, so I think I was probably either not clear enough or maybe painted a couple of people in a bad light. First to her parents. Yes, I've known her parents since 3 weeks into our relationship. They have never been anything but kind to me, and we have eaten at their house twice a month since we have been together. My family has always celebrated Christmas on Christmas Eve, so I have spent 3 of the past 4 Christmases at her house with them. I do not fault or blame them. Their child was brutalized and traumatized, so they circled the wagon around her, which while I do not have any kids, I certainly understand that she was top priority to them. Her dad has been as hurt as anyone by this, and I have been heartbroken to see this giant of a man, he's honest to God 6 inches tall, broken like this. Her sister has honestly been my lifeline. She has talked with me and has always tried to be as open as she can with me. Yes, they knew about the cheating, and that is why I got the runaround. No, they did not support her decision to do this. However, they did not want to be involved other than be there for her. Second, her therapist might be incompetent. I have no way to judge that. However, in rereading what I typed, I think I made it come out worse than it really was. She did not try and excuse what she did, nor did she try and justify it, like I implied. After a few seconds of awkward silence that was only interrupted by my crying, she said that some women do that. Also, I did read where some people thought it was the therapist who recommended she do this. and that couldn't be farther from the truth. My girlfriend told her in therapy what she had done, and she is the one who convinced my girlfriend to tell me. They both agreed to do it there, so she felt safe. I just wanted to clear those two things up, because I did not do either of them any justice. My girlfriend was my best friend. I confided in her for everything. I have some work associates that I am friendly with, but I am hundreds of miles from where I grew up, and all of my friends are there, and either are married or very career-driven. So I don't have what you would call a real support network. My sister has been there for me to a point, but there is a real complication to that even. My girlfriend and my sister are best friends. In fact, it's how I met my girlfriend. So while my sister loves me and wants what's best for me, she is also very sympathetic to her friend and doesn't want me to do anything to hurt either of us. She does not support her in the cheating, but has tried to basically smooth that over. She does not know though that we, my girlfriend and myself, have not been together sexually since the rape. Honestly, that is none of her business, and I think she would be really disgusted with me if I let her think that this even had anything to do with it. My girlfriend has been blowing up my phone with texts since Sunday night. She is saying everything that I have wanted her to say since about a month after the rape. I've gotten more I love yous in the past day than I have in the past year. I've only responded twice to her, so she does know I'm reading them. That is making the next part very hard to do. I came to the decision last night early this morning that for my own mental well-being, I can't do this anymore. Believe me when I say that I know what a failure it is and how horrible it makes me feel. So here is my plan. I know it is chicken shit on my part, but I have typed a letter and I am going to send it to her therapist, along with a note to the therapist explaining what to do for my girlfriend to read in her office. That way there is immediate support for her. I don't want her to be any more abandoned than what I am going to be doing. That is heartbreaking to type BTW. When she goes for her appointment Friday morning, I will then send emails to her parents and a text to her sister informing them of what is happening, so that way they can be there for her when she gets out. Here is word for word. The letter I have written her. The only thing that is different is that I am not using her or her therapist's real names here. Please read it and let me know if I am out of line or if I am too cruel or if this will trigger any type of mental trauma related to her rape. I have zero intention of inflicting any more pain than what is normal with a breakup. Dear Sarah, I know that this is not the best way of doing this, but honestly, if I had to look you in the eyes, I know I could not go through with this. I have loved you since the first month we have been together, and the first 3 years of our relationship were the best 3 years of my life. You were my everything, and I know that we had both talked about marriage a lot, and I know and believe with all of my heart that we were going to be married. Nothing would have made me any more happy or proud than to be called your husband. I don't know how to say this, because every fiber of my being does not want to say this, but for my own mental health going forward, I have to let you go. Believe me when I say that decision did not come easily to me, nor can I say that it is not heartbreaking on my end. I have always and still love you, but I can't be with you anymore. You need to heal, and you need to be able to 100% focus on you. While you are healing and having to worry about me and my feelings is only getting in the way of your healing. I will always hate the guy who did this to you. He has ruined so many lives that life in prison seems a lot more appropriate than what he got. But I don't get to make that call. I know holding on to hate is not healthy, but he has ruined my life as well as yours. I know you are going to hate me for this. I don't blame you at all. I know that you feel abandoned, but please understand, I have done everything in my power to be there for you. I wanted to be more involved in your healing, but for whatever reason, I was somewhat excluded from being a significant part of your inner circle. This has left me feeling very lonely and alienated from you and your family. I wanted nothing but the best for you and wanted to be there for you, and I hope I was, whenever you would let me. I won't lie, you seeking comfort in the arms of another, while still to this day, denying me any affection has weighed very heavily on me. I did then, and I do now forgive you. But forgiving does not take away the soul-crushing pain that comes along with that. I understand to a point why you might have done it. I don't agree with it, and I never will, but I maybe see why. However, that has nothing to do with the fact that we are 1 year and a month past your incident, and you still treat me as though I did something wrong or will do something wrong to you. When you withdrew the other night from my attempt at a kiss, I knew then that you were still in need of healing, and I have no idea how long that will be. But I can't put my life on hold indefinitely, which is where we are still. I know it is very selfish of me, but I need affection. I need both mental and physical intimacy. Our conversations have been both generic and bland for the past year, which, believe me, I can understand why. But we used to spend hours talking about our future and what we wanted. Now, at best, we talk about what movies we want to watch. What I am doing is in no way because of what happened to you. That event was horrible and was life-changing for you, and I never ever had a second thought about you because of it. This is all about your recovery and how you have to heal. For whatever reason, reasons you may not even know yourself, you have completely distanced yourself from me. I've tried with all of my heart to get back to you, but it is painfully apparent that I am no closer to you now than I was right after the incident. Second update. Wednesday night, late at night, I had a knock on my door. Lo and behold, it was her sister Susan and my sister together. Susan was holding papers in her hands, and my sister walked in with her. Obviously, something was up, so I asked what was wrong, and Susan handed me a printout of my posts and the replies to my previous 2 threads and simply asked, "Is this you?" At first, I tried to deny it, as I couldn't really remember everything I had written, particularly the first post, so I was kind of trying to avoid any problems if I said something I shouldn't have. But my sister just straight up got in my face and told me to stop lying, which by then I was caught. I knew, and she knew it. I just dropped my head. This then led to a very long conversation that lasted till the wee hours of the morning. At first, Susan was very emotional because she loves her sister and was crying, asking me how I could want to do this to her. Much to my surprise though, my sister stood up for me here and actually kind of ripped Susan a new one. She said that I had gone way beyond what most people had, and that Sarah should not, 1 year later, still be withholding affection from me. She had no idea that we still weren't physically as close as we once were. Like I said, I never told her. Once my sister got done talking, Susan said that in reality, she knew she was right. She begged me not to go through with my letter, saying that I had promised to give Sarah a week, which I had. She then gave a very impassioned speech about how much she could tell I still loved her and how much she knows she still loves me. My sister also agreed that there was too much love present in my heart to just do this right away. She said, and it made sense at the time, "What is another week compared to what you have been through?" So, long story short, I agreed not to take the letter over. Whether it was guilt, regret, or love, I can't say, but I agreed to it. This then led to the single most embarrassing thing in my life happening. Susan gave me a very big hug and cried as they were leaving. It's been a very long time since I've had any type of close contact, and let's just say it's not a lot of fun, being called a disgusting pig by your sister. All I could do was say how very sorry and how embarrassed I was. Fortunately, Susan seemed to take it in stride. She just wanted to make sure that I would talk with Sarah the next day. Even though I was a virtual zombie from lack of sleep, I went ahead and went to work. I have lots of PTO time available to me, but I didn't want to burn it all up over this in case I needed time later. I got home from work and my intention was to go straight to bed after eating dinner, and maybe watching some TV. That went to hell in a hurry, as I was eating my dinner when someone is knocking on my door again. This time, it was Susan and Sarah. This time Sarah is holding the printout. You can tell they both had been crying, and Susan asked if they could come in. I just shook my head yes because I was honestly a little nervous. And no matter what she has done or not done, seeing Sarah emotional always upsets me, and she physically looked horrible. I mean, as bad as she did after the rape. They sat on the couch, and Sarah already had tears streaming down her face. We all kind of just sat there for what seemed like an eternity, looking at each other. I wasn't going to speak first. I had no idea what to say or do, so I just sat there. Eventually I broke though and asked Sarah if she wanted some water or something to drink. She actually said yes. So I got up and went to the kitchen to get her a glass of ice water, and when I turned around, she was standing right behind me. All she said to me was, "Are you really going to leave me?" I couldn't answer. I just looked into her eyes and felt broken and ashamed. We went and sat down, but this time she sat next to me. She started to read my first post to me, but could not make it through it. Susan jumps in at this point and says they had spent the day talking and they had gone over the post and most of the replies and said that Sarah was very sorry for how she treated me. She said that they have spoken to their parents and everybody agrees that the way I was treated was not fair. Seeing it in writing really struck a nerve with all of them because they could see how hurt I was, and that even though I could have blamed all of them, that I didn't. Sarah is shaking her head yes the entire time. Sarah then managed to talk and just laid out how she obviously did not give me enough consideration and that she now sees that what she did was horrible to me when I have been nothing but compassionate and loving towards her. She begged me for another chance. She said that sometimes in life you need a kick in the butt to get moving, and she said me wanting to break up with her was her wake-up call. She can't and won't take me for granted and said she had a year's worth of apologizing to do to me. Susan actually very calmly said that they had spoken at length in the afternoon about her infidelity and then not even touching me. Sarah then replied that she had no real excuses. She knows that what she did was horrible and that she had no right to ask me for forgiveness, but was going to anyway. She also said that she is making it the top priority of her life that she talk with her therapist to get past any physical limitations she has with me. This went on for a long time, BTW. I could give you a lot more of what was said, but this is already a wall of text as it is. The one thing though that I want to say is that while she was talking to me, she was holding my hand. She reached out and took it. Now I realize that she read my posts, and I made a big deal about that in my posts, but whether she did it because she read it or just did it on her own, she used to do that all the time. I won't deny that it felt really good. They ended up staying the night. No, before you get any crazy adult movie ideas, nothing happened between any of us. Susan slept on the futon and Sarah on the couch, and I actually went to my bed. I called in early Thursday morning to work before I went to bed, as I knew that I would not be able to function on so little sleep. I get awoken around 10 by Sarah sitting next to me in the bed, rubbing her hands on my arm to wake me up. She said that they were getting ready to leave because she had moved up her therapy session to 11, and she didn't want to leave without her telling me how much she loved me and to let me know she was coming right back after the session. She leaned over and kissed me. It wasn't a long, passionate kiss. In fact, it was just kind of a quick kiss, but right on the lips. This was a mistake, I'm sure, because that broke my resolve right there. Up until that point, I was still holding on to the thought that this was all just words and that it took me threatening to leave her to get her to even pay attention to me. One person I got a message from, a rape survivor, kept going over in my head that if she was able to come around because of the threat of me leaving, then this was not all due to her emotional trauma, because if it was due to that, then no threat of me leaving was going to change this. But between my sister, her sister, and her every wall that I was building to protect myself was crumbling, and that kiss pretty much was the wrecking ball that tore them all down. I went back to sleep, and around 1 she shows back up at my place carrying lunch. Susan was not in tow, so it was just going to be the two of us. We ended up spending the afternoon together. We ended up spending the weekend together. Yes, you can infer from that what occurred between us. I'll just say that I was probably more scared about it than she was. I was worried about triggering anything or saying or doing anything that would upset her. She, on the other hand, was very loving and emotional about it. She cried afterwards for a good long while, which caused me to freak, but she said it was a combination of joy and regret. That she had forgotten how love felt, and it just kind of overwhelmed her. We laid there for hours. She had the recommendation from her therapist for a couples counselor who we are going to start seeing next week. I know this isn't what a lot of people wanted to read, and all I can say is that I'm sorry to disappoint you, and yes, I am prepared for the plethora of name-calling from some people. But at the end of the day, I have to worry about myself and my happiness here. For the first time in over a year, I have been happy for 4 days. I know that this isn't the end, that we are still going to have hurdles to overcome. I honestly believe that this was a wake-up call for her. If not, then why go through all of the emotional drama and turmoil? Wouldn't she just let it go? Bottom line is, I love her, I have always loved her, and all I wanted was for her to show me she loved me as well. This past weekend was a really bonding experience for me, and for her as well. I think we can build something new together. I am ultimately a very lucky man.